All right, my friends, it is now time for the Soulful Psalms segment of Beacon of Truth. The Soulful Psalms is we take one of the Psalms from the wisdom literature of the Old Testament, the Jewish hymnal, that we also include as part of our worship as Catholics in the holy sacrifice of the Mass. And we connect that Psalm to your everyday lived experience. Well, today we're taking a look at Psalm 37. Psalm 37 is in book 1 of the Psalms, Psalms 1 through 41. All of those Psalms are attributed to King David. The prescript or superscript of this Psalm is very, very simple. It simply says, Ha David, or of David. And David talks about, he started off this Psalm, do not fret because of the wicked, do not envy those who do evil, for they wither quickly like grass and fade like the green of the fields. So he goes, don't worry about those who seem to be getting all the attention, all the glory in this life, because that's going to fade. In fact, one of my favorite quotes when I was studying Latin at Notre Dame, actually, was from Cicero, Sic transit gloria mundi, so passes the glory of the world. Because the this world is fleeting. All the pleasures and all the things that we find comfortable in this life is all going to go away. The only thing that's going to be left is love. The only thing that's going to be left is life with God forever, or the other alternative, right? And so we dive in today at verse 35. I have seen the wicked one triumphant, towering like a cedar of Lebanon. And so we see this reference to the cedars of Lebanon all throughout the scriptures, both the Old and the New Testament. And, I'm praying one day that I do get to Lebanon, because I would love to see those famed biblical cedars of Lebanon. We know that the cedars from that area were and the acacia wood were part of the wood that was used to build the Ark of the Covenant. We know that the wood from that region was also used to build the first temple. So we see when David started gathering materials for Solomon to build the temple, that we see that part of the wood came from the famous area of the cedars of Lebanon. And so I would love, love, love to go there and see those trees for myself. And so he goes, yeah, so their work on earth, the wicked one, they tower like a cedar of Lebanon. Then he says in the next verse here, which is well, it's an antithetical parallelism. That means there's a contrast between the first cola and the second. So he says, I've seen the wicked one triumphant, towering like a cedar of Lebanon. And then I passed by again, he was gone. I searched, he was nowhere to be found. Right? So that's the fleetingness of this world. Okay, you're here 1 minute, you're gone the next. Right? It's like what do we call music? A one-hit wonder, right? This person comes out on the scene, they make a big splash, they have this massive hit, and then you never hear from them again, right? We call that a one-hit wonder, and so life is like that as well, as David is describing here. We have people that come out and they're full of themselves. That it's all about me. It's about the attention I can get. It's about the wealth that I accumulate. It's about all these things. And everyone's going to give me accolades and praise and glory and all these things. But as David said, I passed by again, he was gone. So just like the trees are cut down, this person that's living a life of self-aggrandizement, that's living simply for themselves, their lives are turned in on themselves, it's going to collapse, and they're going to fall. And they're not going to be able to rebuild, because once a tree is cut and it goes, you can't glue it back together again. I mean, the tree's not going to grow back the way that to its splendor that it was before. So the same is true with us in the world. We're not going to get back to where we were before. We're not going to get back to the life as we once experienced it. So we have to remember what's really important in this life is preparing ourselves for the next life, right? And then it continues: mark the blameless, observe the upright. For a peaceful man, a future lies in store. So that a man whose heart is peace filled, who focuses not on himself, but being a gift of him, making a gift of himself to others, right? That is the man that is blameless. That is the man who lives a life that's upright, who's righteous, who keeps first and foremost in his mind the things of God, right? That's what's important there. Uh, but sinners shall all be destroyed. No future lies in store for the wicked, right? And so we see that the sinners are the one who are going to be destroyed. Why? Because they're going to receive the results of the way they live. You know, the fruits of what they've sown, they're going to reap. And so eventually they're not going to, there's no one like that going to be left. They're going to be destroyed. No future lies in store for them. So we, in a sense, don't have to worry about them. And we don't have to be jealous or envious of someone who has more material wealth, who's getting more attention than we are. What we have to worry about is how we appear before God, because that's what counts in the end. God's not going to care um, when he looks at our bottom line, when he looks at our balance sheet. He's not going to look at, well, say, oh, yeah, you've done a great job. You can come to heaven because you've accumulated so much wealth. No. What we have to be concerned with is whether our names are in the ledger in the book of life, right? It talks about the book of life in the book of Revelation. You know, those are going to be spending eternity with God in heaven, whose names are written in the book of life. And so while we're living in this world, living in this life, we should be focusing, as David helps us to do here, focusing on living blamelessly, which is why we have the sacrament of reconciliation, that outpouring of God's unfathomable divine mercy. We have to observe the upright, right? If we live lives that are virtuous, right? Living virtuously means developing habits um, where we align ourselves with the mind and the heart of God. You know, when we don't think or act like the world, rather we think, as it says, Paul says, put on the mind of Christ. Um, and when we do that, we become free, right? Freedom is not in the accumulation of things, of material things. Freedom comes from aligning our wills with the will of God. True freedom is rooted in the obedience of faith. It's when we listen to the voice of God and allow that voice to change our lives, right? That's where our freedom comes from, the freedom that comes from God. In fact, it's just the opposite. When we cling on and accumulate the things, material things of this world, we actually become enslaved to them. And we're actually not free. Not only free to become who God created us to be, we're not even free to enjoy those things because they're going to fade like a passing shadow.
For more on the Psalms with Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, check out Beacon of Truth weekdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio and streaming everywhere you listen to podcasts.